So now that we've went through our fittings and our tools a little bit, we're going to show you just the simple install. There's a few different ways that a lot of guys are installing their 3/16 tubing. Some are using main lines, some are just using collection tanks. What we're going to show you here today is we're just going to use a small little collection tank. It's a 35-gallon food grade tank. Food grade is always something you want to be looking for in your tanks. So you could have multiple lines hooked up feeding into this tank. We've went ahead and we attached a little support wire here. We've got from tree to tree with a little piece of tubing around it. That's just going to be an anchor for us. So as we go, we're going to hook in for this video. We're just going to do 5 to 7 taps on a little run just to kind of show you how the fittings go together. The rule of thumb that we're usually looking for though, is we're trying to go 15 to 20 taps per lateral line, trying to stay as straight as we can as we go uphill. We're not trying to zigzag all across the hillside. From there, we also try to stay 400 feet or less with distance. But so the rule of thumb you always want to remember is for every foot of vertical lift that you climb up the hill as you go, you're going to make 0.88 inches of vacuum. So ideally you want to have at least a 30-foot hill and beyond. Anything that's on top of that is going to have excellent vacuum to it. So for this, we're just going to show a simple, we don't have a whole lot of grade to work with here, but we're just going to show you a simple little setup. So the first thing we're going to do is we've got kind of our path of maples that we've chose. We've got say 5 to 7 that we're going to run. We're going to start with our end of line hook, and we're going to insert it into the tubing, and we're going to walk our path of maples. So we use our tool. We're going to insert it in, and again we're going to bury it, making sure that both barbs are into the tubing and we're down to the stopper. Alright, our fitting's secure. Now we're going to walk to the end of the line, going past our 5 to 7 taps we're going to run here. So when you do this, you want to work your way around the trees to have side tension as well. So you'll see we're not going to run everything on the same side. We're going to kind of work our way around the tree side to side to also get some side tension. So when I get to my final tree, I'm going to loop around, and I'm going to just take my end of line hook, and I'm going to hook it right back to the tubing. When you do this, you want to try to make it so it's at a 90-degree angle, so it's not sitting out here pinching against your tubing. So we're going to make a nice 90-degree angle as the fitting rests on the tubing. So now we've got our 5 trees figured. Now we're going to walk the line backwards, pulling some tension on it to get some slack out of it. And you don't need to pull super hard, because you can pull hard enough where you could flat spot the pipe. That's something you want to try to stay away from. Just a nice little tension. We're going to work our way back towards the tank. So now that we're back to the tank here, we're going to take our lead connector. It's in my pocket here. We're going to take our flat 3/16 lead connector with the hook on it, and this is what we're going to take to hook onto our wire as a support. So I'm going to cut my line a little bit short back here, and we're going to pull a little more slack out of it to make sure everything's nice and snug. I'm going to cut back maybe, a foot there. I'm going to use my tool. And you got to just make sure that you insert it so the hook is facing the right way. So we're going to insert this. Again, always burying the fittings. And we're going to pull a little more slack out of it and hook it to our support line. So now we have good tension on that line, holding it in the air. So you can look backwards on the line that we just put up. Everything's nice and snug. You know, we've got some side tension from tree to tree as it goes. You know, it's not doing drastic Z shapes throughout the woods. You want to stay as kind of as straight as you can, but wrapping around the trees from side to side. So now we have our support on here. The next step that we're going to do, we're going to take a little chunk of 3/16 and just run it from here down to our tank. So we'll get that on here. All right, and then we'll kind of cut and see what we need. Obviously you want to try to cover your tank hole as best you can to keep critters or debris, anything like that out. For this, we're just gonna leave it open just for the sake of the video. Okay, so now we have our tubings attached down into our collection tank. Now the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and put our tees in. And these are gonna be the tees that we made up in the shop earlier today. We're going to use our two-handed tool, and we're going to be ready for sap. So